Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the Rebel Pastor YouTube channel. Pastor Sky over here in South Korea. And yes, this is my first video to record in this country. And as you can see, I do not have a studio. I'm actually in my office. The best I could do in the background was that tree, a table, and a cabinet, but it's kind of bare right now. But please bear with me until I find a studio. My recording equipment, everything is just kind of like all temporary setup. I don't really even have good lighting right now. My mic is kind of like a wireless mic at the moment, but just let me know, please understand I'm kind of just starting out. I'm actually in the deep countryside too, guys, and this is something I have to have here. It's called Killa. And what does that mean? I don't know. Killa means killer. F, I'm not sure what it means. I think it actually means the letter F. I'm not sure why, but this is an insect killer. Why? Man, today I just, like, in this office, there was a bee like that big just flying around, and I was like, I had to F-killer it because it was stuck in here and I think it was gonna sting someone. So yeah, I just, it's pretty wild over here in the countryside. A lot of things that you would never see in the city. Like, for instance, the countryside is so dark at night. Like, when I look outside, you cannot see anything. It's so dark, it's scary. Meaning, it's not scary because I'm scared of the dark. It's scary because it's so dark, you really feel alone to the point that I feel like if someone killed me, no one would know. Like, it's kind of, I just got a weird mind, but that's kind of the feeling I have is like, oh my gosh, I'm so deep in the countryside. I could die and no one would know for weeks kind of thing, right? But of course, it's just my mind playing tricks on me and stuff like that too. But guys, I'm super grateful and thankful. Please welcome to the Rebel Pastor YouTube channel. Those of you guys here for the first time, yes, it's not as good as it should be, but it will be soon in the future. If you like this type of content, please go ahead, hit the subscribe and like button. And what I've seen so far, the last time I checked, it's like 66% it was 66% of the audience has subscribed. So we still have like 34% out there who are watching but haven't subscribed, right? And if you like this content, please click that subscribe and like button. And if you really like this content, you guys can but you can share this with your friends. Now, another thing that I would say to you guys is this. If you don't like my content and you like to say stuff in the comment section that is maybe negative, I'm okay with it actually. You could still subscribe. I'm fine with it, right? Of course, I don't really like it if it's going to be like curse words and stuff against others, and like we don't want anything like that going on, right? So, but I do understand that people are free to express their opinions, and it's fine, and I'm okay with it. And if you want to invite your friends to come in, also that may not like this type of stuff, I'm okay with it too. I really am. Of course, you might find yourself in a future video where I do talk about comments and such, but it is your freedom to comment, and it's public, and it's my freedom also to make videos of it too. Of course, I am very respectful of it. I'm not going to be like trashing people. I will respect everyone's comments, okay? Now, for me, it has been a wonderful and amazing week. I hope that you guys have had an amazing time too. I've been in South Korea for about 2 weeks now, roughly about 2 weeks, and I've had some interesting things happen, but I want to testify about something that happened. It's amazing, okay? And it has to do with this. And what do you mean by this? It has to do with me blowing my nose every single video. Right? For me, blowing the trumpet call of God, for me, sounding the alarm that the rapture is here, or Noah's flood comes out of my nose. I know, guys, it's gross. And these things, I'm just gonna be honest with you, it has to do with this, and it's really amazing, and I wanted to share with you guys this amazing story, right? So what happened this one day, I take a shower, and then after taking a shower, you have a Q-tip and you're cleaning out your ear and stuff like that too. So as I'm cleaning my ear, I pull out the Q-tip and the cotton part is gone. It's like stuck in my ear. So I was like, what the heck? And I was like, oh, I'm trying to pull it out. I can't get it out. Trying to use another cotton swab, trying other things. I couldn't get it out. So I'm thinking to myself, it's like, what am I gonna do? I got no choice but to go to the hospital or go to, in Korea, they have like the ear and nose specialist. Like, okay, I'm going there. Call my friends. Please send me an address to the ear and nose specialist. I really, really need to, okay, I'm going to use the F killer, guys. There's a huge, huge bug in here. Oh, okay. I don't know if you can hear the wings flutter and slowly flutter less. Can you hear it? Oh my gosh, it's so big. Oh my gosh, it's so big. I'm scared it's coming over here. Okay, it's huge, right? But, okay, so what happened was I took it out and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go to the ear and nose specialist. I go to the ear and nose specialist and I'm embarrassed. I'm seriously embarrassed. I'm like, man, I'm going to spend this money on my ear. The doctor looks at my ear for like a second and he like takes a picture and he says, that's in your ear. He said, let me post a picture up for you right here, right? So here is the cotton in my ear. Doctor takes 3 seconds to pull it out and that already there is gonna cost me like $30 US, right? So I'm sitting there like, man, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I might as well get the most out of it. So I'm like, hey, doctor, nose. I got a nose problem. It's always clogged. He's like, oh, how long? And I was like, well, it's been like 20 years. So he's like, oh, that's interesting. So he basically takes out, then he takes a look at my nose. And he's like, oh, interesting. And he puts this thing in my nose, takes a picture of both nasal cavities. And he takes a picture and he shows me it on the screen. Now, what I'm gonna tell you guys is I'm not gonna put it on the screen because I don't want you guys to get grossed out by looking into my nose, okay? So what happens is the cartilage in the middle of my nose, it's actually, it's curved. And because it's curved, the curve is like this, which means it blocks this nose. And then when it curves here, it blocks this nose. So that's why both of my nostrils don't have a clear pathway for me to breathe. This is how I've been living for the last 21 years. This accident happened in 2003 in a volleyball tournament, right? So I was like, this is crazy. So I'm sitting to myself, I was like, dang. So I asked him, I was like, hey, so how do I get this fixed? Do I have to go to a big hospital? He's like, no. Yeah, I can, it's coming. Whoa. And he says to me like, yeah, I can fix it right here. And okay, right? When it dies, I'll show you how big it is. It's crazy how big. Ah! Okay, sorry. Right? So I don't know if I gotta kill it anymore. Ah! It's so big. It died. Do you want to see how big it is? Should I show you guys how big this is? This is crazy, guys. Oh, no, it's still moving. Ah, still moving. Okay, I'll show you later. He's staring at me. Whoa, okay. Okay, I'm gonna show you this a little bit later, okay? This is scary, because the reason why you can't hear it, but I can hear like the, it's that big, I can hear the fluttering of the wings, all right? So, okay, so what happens is, okay, you know what? I'm gonna show you this right now, because you guys need to know that I'm not lying. That I'm not joking around about this. Give me. Okay, let me show you to you through the camera. Okay? I'm gonna show you through the camera. Okay. Do you see it? It's huge. Can you see it? Okay. Oh my gosh. Did you guys just see that? Tell me that's crazy. Okay. See, now I'm stuck. All right. I'm back here again, guys. Did you guys see it? It's huge. And it's still moving right now. So I'm a little bit scared right now. Okay. So I totally broke the flow of this story. Okay. So remember, I just got they took it out, and I have to pay 30 bucks for this. So I'm like going, you know what, I might as well check my nose. I was like, doctor, go check it out. The doctor comes, he's like, okay, what's going on? And he says, okay, let me check it. He puts the cameras in my nose, shows me that my nose is curved. And I'm like going, doctor, how am I gonna get this fixed? Do I have to go to a hospital? The doctor's like, no, I could fix it in this small clinic. I was like, what, you can do that? And he's like, yeah, I can do it. The only problem is you don't have insurance. Because you don't have insurance, it's gonna be very expensive. And I was like, dang, that's crazy, right? So I was like calling around, like, what should I do about this? And in the end, like even my parents were like going, it's your health. It's worth it. And you've been suffering with this for the last 21 years. You've been suffering for 21 years. Why don't you just get it fixed? And I was like, wow, that's, I should, right? So I decided like, yeah, I'm gonna get it fixed before the end of this year. I'm hoping that as I get my work visa and stuff here, that my insurance will kick in so that I can get my nose fixed right away. So I am so grateful and thankful to God that He was able to, that now I'm able to fix my nose. And and this is kind of the thing that I want you guys to kind of gain from this, okay? Because I was really thinking about this, is like, isn't it so odd that I was able to fix my nose because of something so small that happened with my ear. You know what I mean? It's like God led me to this place because of something so small, but it wasn't for this, it was for this. And I would say, how many times in our lives has God taken us somewhere, we complain, we think there's something wrong, we're like, God, why is it like this? And then later, something better comes from it. And I think this is something that we have to realize all the more, right? We have to be the ones that understand how God works, and God's not always gonna work with just like, oh, you wanna fix your nose? I'm gonna fix your nose, right? But sometimes, because, we need to be led by God's inspiration, a lot of times, like think about this, my nose, I gave up on my nose. 21 years of being in this type of situation, I thought to myself, I'm just gonna be like this for the rest of my life. And the only way God can get me to check my nose is for me to get cotton stuck in my ear, to go there, pay 30 bucks and just say, you know what? I might as well get my nose checked, and now this can get fixed too. And I think this kind of shows to us that the way God works is way different than the way that we think. And I think one of the most famous verses that I think all of us know is Isaiah 55. What verse is it? It's verse 8 and 9. So let me pull it up right here. Isaiah 55, verse 8 and 9. Very, very famous verse. And what does God say? He says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts, right? So when you look at this, one of the things that God is telling us, and we have to absolutely understand this clearly, we have to realize this, right? One of the things my pastor taught me was there's a huge difference between knowledge, like knowing and realizing, right? Knowing is what? Knowing is like 2 plus 2 and you memorize equals 4. That's to know, right? 2 plus 2 equals 4, right? But what does it mean to realize 2 plus 2? When you finally realize the concept of 2 plus 2, then you start to answer things that you will never, ever be able to like physically calculate. Like, so what does that mean? Well, if you know 2 plus 2 equals 4, you just memorize 2 plus 2 equals 4. When you realize it, they'll say, what is 2 million plus 2 million? It is 4 million. What is 2 billion plus 4 billion? What is 200 trillion? Plus 200 trillion, it's 400 trillion. Why? Because you realized 2 plus 2. It's not just a knowing, it's a realization. And even though we've read this verse so many times, my thoughts and your thoughts and my ways and your ways are so different. How different are they? Well, God says it's so different. It's the difference between the heavens and the earth. We can't even measure that we can't even see how big that really and truly is. That's the difference between us and God. And of course, as believers in God, this is one of the topics I did want to talk to you guys about today is very interesting. Because for us to why this is so big for us, why it's a big realization for me, It's because it made me realize why it's so hard for believers to obey God or to do what God says. Like, what? What do you mean? Like, do we really not do what God wants? And the answer is absolutely. There are so many times. And the answer came out in this situation I had with my nose and my ear. This situation of understanding God's thoughts and God's ways. Why is it so hard for us to really follow God? We believe in God, we have faith in God, but why is it hard to follow, right? Because I think everyone out there who is a believer, we have the faith. We do believe. We're like, God, you are amazing. You are the King of Kings. You are the Lord of Lords. You are all things. And we're like so grateful and so thankful. And then God's like, do this. And we're like, I don't know. I really don't. And I think it's something that we just read the answer in Isaiah 55:8-9. God's thoughts and God's ways are so much different than our ways. And I want you to take a look at some stories in the Bible. I'm not going to even go through the entire story. I'm just going to tell you what God told these people to do. And I want you to think to yourself is that hard to follow or not? God says to Abraham, take your only son that you have born at such an old age and sacrifice him. Sacrifice your son to God. Now, is that easy to follow? And you'd be like, oh my gosh, if God told me to do that, could I do that? Can you imagine Moses? Moses ran away because the Pharaoh wanted to kill him. And what happens? God says, oh yeah, go back to the Pharaoh and tell him, let my people go. And Moses is like, are you crazy? Like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. How can I'm gonna die. What about Joshua? Oh, by the way, cross the Jordan River. And what I want you to do is you got to go to war with the 31 tribes of Canaan. And I want you to defeat all of them. And if you think about this, think about that carefully. How could you follow that? All these times we've seen these stories in the Bible from Gideon destroying tens of thousands of soldiers with only 300 men. If God told you to do that, could you do that? That's a real question. And that's the reason why I bring up this question to you guys is, why is it hard for believers to follow God? And the answer is this. The answer is all the stories that I gave you, every protagonist in those stories, they all followed God. Okay? And then we can find someone who didn't do it, like a King Saul. King Saul was supposed to give the sacrifice through Samuel before going to war, where Samuel was the one that's supposed to connect to God to sacrifice, and then they go to war and they can win. But Saul was the one that did it on his own. He couldn't obey he couldn't follow what God wanted. Why? The enemies were coming closer. The enemies were coming closer. We're gonna die. God, where is Samuel? If he doesn't come, we're all gonna die. And then he says, okay, well, I'm just gonna do it myself anyways. Just going to do it myself. God gives him another chance. And he says, all right, second chance, last chance here. The one thing I want you to do now is I want you to kill everything. Kill all the animals. Kill everything that's in this war, kill everything. Right? Don't take any spoils for yourself. What does King Saul do? King Saul doesn't listen to God, and he says, oh, you know what? I have a better thing I can do. You know what? Let me sacrifice. These sheep and these animals are so choice that they belong to God. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to sacrifice them all to God, because you know what? I want God to be happy. But it's interesting, because in the end, what actually happened is what? In the end, if you look at 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22, what did God say? What did Samuel say to King Saul in response? And he says, does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. God says the answer is obedience. Why? Why would God have to tell us obey? And these two verses come together. The first verse says that God's thoughts and God's ways are so much higher than ours. And then the second thing is, obedience is better than sacrifice. God wants obedience. How do these two things come together? Very easily. How? Well, God's thoughts and God's ways are so high compared to us that they are unfathomable and we cannot comprehend it. It's just too big for us. Like even for me, think about this, even for me, going to the ear and nose doctor to get a piece of cotton out of my ear, I'm like, gosh, I gotta go and pay $30. No, God, why is it like this? But God's thoughts and his ways are higher than mine. I can't understand it. It's just too big. It's almost like if you looked at a mountain, you stand at the foot of a mountain, if it's like Mount Everest, it's beyond the clouds. You look and you're like, whoa, this is incredible. It is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. What's the problem? The problem is my mind is not big enough to fathom it. My mind is not smart enough to comprehend how great God's thoughts and God's ways are. And that's why it's so hard to follow. Sacrifice your son. What? Go to the Pharaoh who wants to kill you and ask him to let all the Israelites. What? Right? Gideon, go. 300 people, you're going to destroy tens of thousands. God, this is too big for my mind. But what's God's answer? God's answer to us isn't, I want you to, just sit there. I'm going to sit down and explain every single thing to you. No, God gives us the answer and he says, guess what? Yes, my thoughts is so different than yours. My ways are so different than yours. I am at such a different level, you cannot even compare. His IQ's in the trillions when we're at like 120. And because of that, God says, there's one thing that you can do. And what is that? God says, obey. That's all you need to do. Just obey. And as people who believe in God, who've already experienced God, who've already witnessed God in their life, and now you have that absolute faith, what is God asking of us right now, even when we may not understand, we cannot fathom what God wants in our life? God says, obey. It's not blind. Why? Because like I said, it's for those who have realized God, who believe and follow, right? Those who say, I believe that Jesus is the Messiah, like people who realized we have already checked, right? We have already brought ourselves to that level. And because of that, we believe in an almighty, all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient God that knows all things and knows us better than we know ourselves. And if we truly believe this, then when we do not understand, God says, obey. There's going to be tons of times, guys, we're going to be going through some difficulties and some hardships, and God may ask us to do things. We're like, what? Are you serious? But obey. For God does not delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord. To obey is better than sacrifice. I hope it's something that we can all understand really well. I know it's a little bit short for today because I am trying out this new setup. I'm doing this by myself. I'm not even sure how well this is going to come out, but I am very grateful and thankful for you guys coming out once again. I hope you guys have an amazing and awesome week, and I'll be tinkering and working with the lighting and everything else here so it becomes a lot better for the next time I do record. All right? So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Rebel Pastor podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Have an amazing and awesome week. And yes, have an amazing, awesome week. And we'll see you guys again next week on the Rebel Pastor podcast. This is Pastor Sky signing out. Bye-bye.
never settle. I raise the level. It's time to go, sky's the limit, it's me